climbing outdoors. I got halfway up it, and the exposure of the route, I started to cry because I just got so overwhelmed by my fear, even though I was comfortably attached to a rope and at no risk of anything bad happening. But just the sensations around me just put me past the point of being able to, I don't know, are you aware of like the comfort zone, stretch and panic? We've got
No.
these like three. Yeah. So we have our comfort zone. We then have stretch, which is when we're kind of in our optimal performance. So when you're working hard, but you're feeling stretched, but it's still within your control.
Okay.
And then you have the panic, which is when you go outside of that. That's the sort of the point of no return. And when you're working in stretch, that's a great place to grow. But if you go into panic, you can't just like go back a step into your growth zone, your stretch zone. You have to go all the way back to reset yourself to then go back in. So in my case, and maybe in others, so in that situation when I was climbing and I went from stretch over into panic, I then, my partner very kindly lowered me off the wall and I sat on the ground and cried to allow my body to process the emotions that I was feeling. And then I did some box breathing to just help myself calm down, to relax. So I very much like to give my body a bit of time to process because it's important to do that. And then going, okay, now I want to soothe myself. I've allowed myself to cry. I've felt those emotions. I've been a bit scared and that's okay. And now I'm going to bring myself back to a point where I can communicate with Ed and do another climb and enjoy myself again. And I'm going to soothe through doing some box breathing.
That sounds incredibly difficult to do when you're flying a plane, though.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the time to do that, right? You tip from this comfort stretch zone into panic.
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Coach me if you can. Coach me if you can. Coach me if you can. Coach me if you can.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 10 of the Coach Me If You Can show. And there's something poetic about the fact that this one was the first podcast episode I ever recorded back in January with Elissa Davies, special mission pilot, breathwork coach, and badass woman all around. This was the first episode I recorded back in January. And confession, I somehow managed to record the episode through the microphone of my bloody webcam instead of my nice fancy podcast microphone. So that's why it's taken me a while to publish this. So anyway, it reminds me of the fact that beginnings aren't perfect. They're necessary, right? I loved the episode with Elissa. She introduced me to practices that I still kind of carry with me today. Box breathing is one of them. So when I'm at night, my mind's racing. I describe it as a fly bashing against the light. Sometimes that's how my mind feels. If I can't sleep, my mind will go to whatever problem needs fixing. And box breathing definitely helps me kind of calm down and then fall asleep, right? Another concept that stuck with me from Elissa Davies was the concept of allocating worry time, naming it, sorting it, almost like treating it like paperwork. Okay, what are we going to do with this thought? We're going to file it in the accept category and asking yourself the question, what am I going to do with this? Right? And it's kind of compassion in motion, triaging thoughts, not us identifying as the thought, but taking a step back. What are we going to do with this one? So if this episode gave you a breath of insight, subscribe to Spotify and share a comment. Let's keep growing together. Enjoy Elissa Davies. Back to the show.
That's a really interesting one. I think I've been doing this job for so long. I've got over 5,000 flying hours that I would say there are very few situations where I would be tipped from stretch into panic, because I have the support of a team and I know my own sort of abilities, and I have because as well as this I also teach human factors training at work, and so I have a lot of awareness of what I have available to me as sort of tools like decision making and cooperation and leadership and things like that. Let's say I was in a emergency situation.
Give us an example.
Well, so let's say I've been cruising along, low level over the sea, and I've had a bird strike. This hasn't happened to me. This is fictional. But let's say I've had a big seagull has gone down one of the engines, and I've had an engine failure. Now, I've done so much training because we have to go to a simulator twice a year. We train for these emergencies. We're expected to know and practice our drills, that if that were to happen, I know I'm going to get a startle response, which is my nervous system, that fight or flight. There's a big bang. I'm going to get into this moment of shock. But because I've done so much training, I then go straight into my mental programs of, right, identify the failure, action the drills. This is so I'm at a point, I think it's because I have resilience. That's what I would call it. I guess that's the term. I've built up resilience through work and in my own personal practices, so that if I'm in an emergency situation where panicking is not an option, I'm the one that I'm responsible for getting this aircraft and the people in it safely on the ground. So I have to be resilient as an individual to do that. My breakdown happens when we shut down and I know I'm safe. Then I can allow myself to go into the panic zone, to process it all, to be like,
Your body's
wow.
got some catching up to do in terms of the emotions that just happened, right?
Exactly.
And got pushed down, I guess, almost automatically.
But sometimes it's not, as you say, it's not appropriate to, as I say, going into the panic zone isn't an option. And that's where the importance of building resilience, whether you do that through breathwork practices, or I like to do cold water plunges, or even through the climbing that I do and the off-road riding, I put myself in a lot of situations that really push my comfort zone, so that it's actually quite big and takes quite a lot before I get to that tipping point. So it's just something that, resilience is such an important tool to build. And it's not to say, I've seen some interesting conversations about it online where people actually think that resilience is can be a bad thing, or perhaps they don't necessarily like the term because it sounds like you have to be tough. And I would say you do, but it's not, but only up to a certain point. When you then, the important thing is, yes, be resilient up to a point, and then allow yourself the space to process what you've been through, to take a step back and to go through the emotions, to speak to a therapist, to take yourself outside and have some quiet time, or whatever that looks like. I've been a special mission pilot, and I still am. I now do that part-time, but I've done that for nearly 14 years, which still blows my mind when I think about it. We'd had lockdown. It was that 2020, and I guess we'd kind of entered this weird period of limbo for most people. We were still flying because of the work that we do was classed as essential, because we support UK defence, and so my flying rate leading up to that point had been quite intense, and the tempo for this year, 2021 I think it was pretty high. And I got to a period in the back end of the year for about 3 months where I was just flying a lot, away a lot, starting to get homesick, which is something I've never experienced before. And that was very bizarre. And just really, finding this, feeling a lot of anxiety around work and how I was going to manage my energy. And I didn't do anything on the weekends because I felt like I needed to preserve my energy to be able to have enough to fly the next week. And I got to this point, I got to Christmas, we take a 2-week break, which was great. And I thought, this will be the thing that it will reset me. I'll be ready to go into the new year. And that obviously didn't happen. I remember being sat in my friend's car after we'd been to the gym, and I think we'd had a bit of a sort of a friendship upset. And that just triggered me into this sort of state of like, oh my God, I am just so overwhelmed, so anxious. And I just had I guess a mini breakdown for
Wow.
a good few hours. Yeah. Where I just, having sort of pushed everything down and not really processed it, this anxiety just really bubbled up. And for anyone who's experienced it, it can become quite overwhelming. So thankfully, we have a very good support system at work. So I utilise that, had some solution-focused therapy to help me sort of work through the anxious thoughts and things like that. But that's when I found breathwork. My friend had actually sent me this app, Othership, which is they're a Canadian company, and they have they're very much around sort of creating sauna and contrast therapy, sauna and ice baths, and breathwork is like the new pub that people would go to. And I started using this app and found myself doing breathwork 3 times a day. It was recorded tracks, and I just became obsessed with it because I suddenly found, that I had this thing that I could really anchor into and that helped me feel very grounded. I've tried traditional meditation, and I do think it is a very valuable tool to use, but to really get me from this place of, oh, my mind is everywhere, into the here and now that was the thing that really just connected to me, to myself.
Did you notice the kind of effects of it
Oh, yeah.
straight away?
Yeah, immediately. A very, I don't know if visceral is the right word because that sounds quite sort of intense, but yeah, it was like this switch. As soon as I started connecting to my breath, it was like my brain just went, oh, we can switch off from all the stuff that's going on. I just gained a lot more awareness of my own breathing patterns and my thought patterns, and it just gave me these moments to kind of sort of pause and give myself a bit of space when I was perhaps feeling like things were bubbling up. So I still do it now at work. I'll disappear. At the time, I would disappear off into an office, a quiet office in between flights, to just to have a little reset, and then come back in feeling ready to focus on the thing that was next. Because with the anxiety, it was always thinking too far ahead. So trying to sort of train myself to be just in the moment more.
I'm fascinated by that. We'll have to return to this later on in the podcast, how you threaded that through your day and making it kind of happen and habits. But before we get there, maybe just when you say special mission pilot, maybe walk us through your favorite mission, your favorite project as a pilot.
So in terms of the kind of flying that we do, it's so as I said at the beginning, we work with UK Defence. We also work with lots of other nations. We work with NATO and a couple of stuff in the Middle East, a couple of operators in the Middle East as well. But in terms of, my favourite trips are what we do down here on the south coast, because we mainly work with ships, and it's flying low level over the sea. So we'll be 250 feet, 300 feet, doing about 300 knots, which is reasonably fast. And we're in a business jet that's been specially fitted. But yeah, doing stuff requires a lot of focus, a lot of teamwork. It has to be quite precise. So it really is, it's that sort of culmination of working together as a team, doing something that is more risky than the sort of day-to-day office work, and knowing that it has such a direct output, an impact on the people that you're training, because they're seeing what we're doing and getting their own, having to sort of train against, because ultimately what we do is we're the bad guys in most cases, and they're the good guys practicing. So that's what we do, is provide electronic warfare training or operational readiness training.
Breathwork in your career, was that introduced to you during your career via your work, or how did that first come about?
I've had other wellbeing tools like meditation and having practiced yoga and the usual fitness, walks, that kind of stuff. But no, breathwork is very much sort of self-led, and having then shared it with other people, and my colleagues will sort of, they'll smile when they see me disappear off, or if I'm like lying down in a room in the dark. But certainly something I want to do is to help introduce it into more workplaces, because I just love how it is such a it's a practice that has such an immediate effect, that's so simple to do, that you don't need to have a yoga mat or to go to a class. You just need to be able to understand some very basic principles of good breathing and a couple of techniques to then be able to use in the moment. And certainly if I'm flying and on a very tricky approach, I won't necessarily go into a specific technique like box breathing, for example, because that requires, to be able to sort of split my focus to do that is quite difficult. But I will work on some basic principles of taking long, slow breaths and breathing in through my nose and maybe out through my mouth. Or like certainly when I was climbing yesterday, if I can start to feel my stress levels rising or my fear response kicking in, then I will go back to that basic principle of just breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, that sort of, to really force my body to relax. That's come because I have the awareness, if I can sense my breathing changing and getting faster and shallower, which is a sign that my fight or flight is activated.
Maybe you could just walk back to that moment where you kind of realized, this is something I want to share with others. And when was that moment when you thought, actually, this is something I want to pursue professionally and spread the word on?
I think it was something that kind of happened progressively. There wasn't this very clear aha moment where I thought, this is my purpose, this is what I'm going to go and do now. It was very much, so my friend and I used to run a women's cold water sea swim group. We decided to start this women's cold water swim group to meet up. We'd go on the beach and then get into the sea. And what I started doing, having fallen in love and become obsessed with breathwork, was when we'd wander down to the beach with this group, and then we'd sit and do some breathing exercises before then getting in the water. And a lot of people have heard of Wim Hof and that particular technique, but we wanted to focus.
Hey, should we do a breathwork kind of session?
Yeah,
before
just let's do some breathwork first to help calm ourselves, ground ourselves, or maybe because there's so many different techniques you can do, but maybe give ourselves a bit more energy before then getting in the sea. And it was just the enjoyment of seeing people's faces and how relaxed they were, and the difference it made to their mindset and their emotional state before getting in the water, that it sort of began to evolve. I did 3 sessions of different workshops depending on different needs at this women's motorcycle adventure festival. And it was from doing it there that, again, just seeing the impact that it has on people. And even though breathwork has been around for a very, very, very long time, a lot of people, I would say it's only really in the last few years that it's become a lot more known about and understood in terms of having the science to back up the actual sort of physical experiences that people are having. So yeah, just moving in from that, it gradually progressed into, it was actually someone who had been, she hadn't been to our cold swim group, but she knew what I did and said, oh, would you come and do this for our staff? So I said, yeah, cool, give it a go. Yeah. And actually there was someone who did come to our group who contacted me and said, oh, could you do something like this for our staff? So I did a session for them, and it just kind of developed from there in terms of the type of breath work I was teaching and the format. And with all things, it's still evolving, but that's when it became this, oh, actually, people at work, yes, a lot of businesses offer well-being schemes, and for you to go out there yourself and use it like I did, but actually how great would it be to have someone who, an employer who can set up a session for you that you can turn up to on your lunch break. And that's very much what I hope to do for more businesses.
It sounds a bit like it snowballed into what you're doing now. Any specific moments with a customer where you noticed the impact?
I did a festival last year, a big, there's this huge adventure bike, right? It's called Adventure Bike Rider magazine. And I pitched to host a session, 2 sessions for them over their festival weekend, which is something they've never done before. They had yoga sessions. So I did this sort of sandwiched onto the end of that. And I had there, having taught people who I wouldn't sort of put into your traditional breathwork practitioner, practicee, I don't know what the word is, but I wouldn't sort of identify as my typical client for breathwork, but people who are obviously curious to give it a try and see how it could help them, because the focus on that was very much how can you use breathwork to keep you calm when you're riding off-road on the trails and stuff happens, or you're doing navigating tricky obstacles that might feel quite scary or stressful. And yeah, having done the couple of sessions there and having people come up to me afterwards and ask questions, wanting to learn more and saying how good it felt. And one woman actually very kindly wrote a Substack newsletter on her experience, which was just really beautiful to read and to see, wow, this has had a really profound impact on her. And she'd done the breathwork class and then gone out on the trails afterwards. And one being a woman at a festival like that, with they had a big set of off-road trails that you could ride on, but very busy, it's very much a male-dominated sport. And yeah, for her, she wrote about her experience and how it helped her enjoy the sort of the connection with her bike more and the trails more. And even if she had the topples, she was able to stay calm, pick herself back up. Falling off is very much part of off-road riding, but it was just really lovely to see that something so simple had such a ongoing benefit for her.
That's really, really cool. I've got a section called Fact or Fiction.
Oh.
Basically, Elissa, I'll throw a couple of statements your way and you'll tell me if it's fact or fiction.
Oh, I'll do my best. Yeah, go for it. I'll do my best.
As I already mentioned, guys, this is episode 10, and this episode is brought to you by Inner Buddies. I am still so excited that they decided to jump into the boat with me, so to speak. I absolutely love it. I'm working on getting Crystal Creek, the CEO of the company, back for another couple of episodes. If you have any kind of issues, eye issues, gut issues, skin issues, or you're just kind of working on being a healthier human being, check out Inner Buddies. It is a take-home test kit that they send you. You poop in a test tube, you mail it off to the guys and girls at the laboratory at Inner Buddies. They analyze it, and then they make the results available to you in your very own dashboard. Now, in this dashboard, you can see if there are any challenges, red flags, what's good, what's not, how diverse your gut microbiome is, and what you can do to increase diversity, because a healthier gut is a more diverse gut equals a more healthier person in the end. Go over there to www.innerbuddies.com, check out the self-test kits, and use the code WELLAGUTS at checkout. And your gut might be trying to tell you something. Inner Buddies helps you listen. Back to the show.
Okay. Breathwork is only effective when practiced for long periods daily.
Oh, that is fiction. Definitely fiction. Yeah, breathwork, it's within 30 seconds, it will start to have an impact on your physiology. It is that quick. Yeah. As soon as you start breathing in a certain way, so let's say you focus on drawing your breath deeper down into your lungs, so using more of your diaphragm, you're starting to activate your parasympathetic nervous system receptors, and that will reduce your heart rate. It'll start to give you those sensations of feeling calm, as quickly as 30 seconds. Clearly,
Wow.
Longer practice, you can have greater benefits to your cardiovascular health and things like that. But certainly in the moment, Yeah. Or, I mean, yeah, the physiological side, that's another one that you can do that's a breathing technique, that will work in 30 seconds. It's that
Wow.
quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't need to feel stressed or anxious to benefit from breathwork.
I would say that's fact. Breathwork is something that, this is almost the bit that I sort of struggle with it, is that it has so many uses and applications that it's hard to decide which area to focus in. But yeah, if you look at, let's take free diving, for example, free divers will use breath work to increase their lung capacity and breath control as they dive they'll do breathing techniques to build up their carbon dioxide tolerance, for example, because carbon dioxide is what it triggers our breathing response. So the more tolerant you are to CO2, the less breaths you need to take. And therefore, if you're freediving, you can do a 4-minute breath hold without it being a big deal. Whereas for most of us, the thought of holding our breath for 30 seconds is, panic inducing. But yeah, yes, you can use it for stress relief and feeling calm, but from a sports performance perspective, it has its applications there as well.
I feel it's also sometimes people think it ties into weaknesses versus strengths. Does one focus on what one wants to improve, or does one focus on if one's thriving in life?
Yeah,
one might feel, breathwork's not for me. I'm already thriving, but one has to try it out.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, because I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm okay now, I'm going to stop doing this thing. But actually, even just improving your lung function overall, even if you take it away from the mental and bring it to the physical, that actually maintaining, it's the same as if you think about working out and doing weight training, that there's no sort of, I would argue, there's no like end goal.
Right.
Maybe someone's end goal is to lose weight, but you want to keep maintaining that muscle tone. That means you have to continue weight training. Your body needs to train, to practice in order to maintain these things. And that's where breathing exercises and breath work is something, even if you are thinking, my mental health is great, life is easy breezy.
Not really.
Actually, well, but it's something that you can use just to keep maintaining where you're at already, I would say.
Okay. It's possible to teach someone to use breathwork techniques in just one session.
Yes, definitely. Fact. Yes. I would certainly keep it simple, but yes, you can teach breathwork techniques that can be done in one session. Yeah, absolutely.
Anxiety is something you can completely cure with enough.
It's a really tough one. I'm going to say fiction, but not to sort of create doubt in people that you'll never not feel anxious again. But I think sometimes we can have, you might have anxious moments, if you're in particularly stressful situations or going through certain life experiences that induce anxiety. But the difference is having something where having this self-awareness and recognition, and then being able to do something about it. That's the difference. So whereas before, anxiety might have been something that would last weeks or months, you might have, let's say, I get it before I'm going to go and ride my motorbike off-road. I might feel anxious initially thinking about all the things that might happen, but then I can very quickly bring my mind back to where I am, focus on that, and the anxiety dissipates. So, but I would say it varies from person to person. I think we all experience it in very different ways.
I'd suggest we now go to the coaching challenge.
Yeah.
But in this session, dear Lisa, you're the coach. You can kind of guide me into whatever direction.
I will do my best.
Okay.
So first, what I need to understand is clearly breathwork is my tool, my solution, my passion. But what is it in your life? You talked at the beginning about that you very much resonated with turning chaos into calm.
Yeah.
And so I would ask you, what are the chaotic, what is the chaos that you find yourself getting lost in, that you then need to create a moment of anchoring, of grounding to be able to come back to?
Yeah, I mean, that question kind of it's a spot at the moment because not too long ago I had a burnout.
Okay.
And I had about, I'd say, a year of a lot of stress, which led to this burnout.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of stress around moving, around private life, around diseases in the family, around my work. And I remember just the work piece, for instance, trying to deal with it by working harder, by really trying to make it a success and not kind of
Okay.
give up or change too quickly, change roles, change the dog too quickly. And it was like a slippery slope. I was just going about it in the wrong way. Before I knew it, I wasn't sleeping well, stopped sleeping for a whole week. And I just, the chaos kind of, it really got to me.
Okay.
And since I've turned a 180 degrees, I've got a new job. We're now sitting together talking because of my passion project. I've lost 28 kilos of weight through nutrition only. I'm a passionate cook in the kitchen who learnt a lot about healthy food. So I've done a 180, but I realize as many parents and many, I suppose, people with challenging jobs might have, there are so many things that life can throw our way where you either let it affect you for the rest of the day or you kind of have a way, a superpower, Elissa's superpower, to kind of go off, do something and come back and you're more grounded, you're in the present.
So that's because I can very much say when I would use breath work, but because that's the thing that stands out for me, to me, that you've said is that you don't want something to affect you for the rest of the day, that you want to be able to step away, reset yourself,
yes,
and come back to it. Is that very much the sort of the practical application that the thing that you're looking for to be able to sort of hit that pause button, step away and reset yourself?
That's one superpower I'd like. The other one would be to relax myself, thinking towards sleep. I mean, I'm quite a person who likes to think a lot. I'm quite strategic, so I think about most things quite a bit. And I sometimes struggle with turning my mind off at night, especially if I'm very enthusiastic about something or if I'm fearful of something or worrying about something. So then turning it off at night, or one of my children wakes me up in the middle of the night and I go and solve that issue. If my mind's awake, he will go straight to the issue. I often describe it like a fly going to the light, banging against the light. It's the issue in my mind. So I think breathwork, not knowing much about breathwork, but I hope breathwork could play a role there, just kind of returning to the present a little bit.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, so those would be the two immediate ones. Any curveball life throws at you during a regular day. This could be a nappy situation gone wrong in the car, or just timing, being late to something, those kind of things. Something that life throws at you, wanting to go away, come back and be back in the present, and maybe learning to relax better, especially around sleep.
So those are the two, which is something that certainly when I speak to a lot of people, it's very much being able to, I spoke to someone recently who is a mergers and acquisitions lawyer, and she wanted to have the ability to ground herself before going into a very high stress, high stakes client meeting, or to be able to come out the other side and give herself something to reset after what might have been a very conflicting conversations. So the challenge is there are so many breathwork techniques, and with breathwork it's very much about finding what you enjoy. So I can give you a couple of techniques that you can try, go away and practice, but I would very much encourage you to explore and come back to me in, say, 2 to 3 weeks time and say, oh, I really liked this, wasn't such a fan of that. I would always encourage people to explore the discomfort and maybe ask themselves, okay, why do I feel this discomfort? Perhaps the idea of sitting and breathing when you want to be doing other things, that in itself can be quite illuminating. But So the first one will start with that, creating that moment of reset. So I'm going to give you 2 techniques that you can practice. And one of them is very short. That's going to be the physiological sigh. And this is where you are let's say you're in a situation where you just don't have the ability to leave the room. You don't have very much time. You need something that's very quick that happens. That is, you can just do this to be like, okay, right, I've reset myself. Let's get on with this difficult thing that I'm doing. So that is where the physiological sigh is so good. It helps activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So this is your rest and digest, which most people know as. That's the stuff that helps calm you down. It's going to slow your heart rate. It's going to give you relatively immediate relief. And it's a technique
Scientifically proven.
Yeah, scientifically proven. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of Andrew Huberman.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I've heard him talk about that physiological sigh. I haven't done it, but I heard him speak about that.
It's a great technique. It was first sort of the first sort of research behind it was in the 1930s, I think, but it's become a much more known technique. And if you watch your, did you say you have a dog?
With leadership ambitions, yes.
With leadership ambitions. So this is something that you can observe your dog and your children doing, because we do it instinctively without even, it's something that we do all the time, well, not all the time, but on a relatively regular basis without even realizing, because it's our body's natural way of resetting, but we can take control of that. That's what breathwork is. It's breathing control. So if you notice that your children are having a mega meltdown, you might see them doing this sort of sobbing. Maybe you've seen that's your body trying to induce this physiological sigh, and you'll also do it before you go to sleep. So the physiological sigh is a inhale through the nose, and then you're taking one final inhale to top it up, holding, and then letting it go with a really big sigh. It's hard to do because I've got a bit of a stuffy nose, so I don't want to sort of sniff too hard. But yeah, very much long inhale.
So you breathe in like 90% and then you top up 10%.
I mean, I would almost say breathe in 95% and top up 5%. You really want to feel when you're doing that final top up that you really cannot get much more air in. It should be a very short, sharp, but hold it. And then really long, slow exhale and let the body drop as you do it. So it's a technique, as with all of these, they take a bit of practice. But if you practice that, if you do that 2 to 3 times, you should start to feel more relaxed. So if you're in, let's say, a meeting or somewhere where you can't go away for 5 minutes and do some box breathing, which is what we're going to do next. This is something it just provides very quick, immediate relief without it being too complicated.
What I love about it is it seems relatively easy to thread through your daily life. It doesn't take long. So someone, if you're in the car, in traffic, wherever, in the train, you got a minute before a call or an interview or something like that, you're able to do it. So in terms of habit building, it sounds like a very achievable one as long as you have that prime. I've got the superpower.
You've got it. And this is where, like, I would say, if you were a client of mine and I was encouraging you to build up a breathwork practice, is that I would give you some practices of grounding and sort of building in this mind-body connection, because so many people aren't even aware of their breathing habits. Something I get people to do at the start of a session is sectional breathing or 3-part breathing, where we'll focus on placing our hands and breathing, just using the abdomen and the diaphragm. Then we'll go to the chest and focus on breathing into that section, and then the collarbones, so that you're really starting to tune in to, I can feel that actually my breath is quite high and shallow. And that tends to suggest that you're more activated and in that sympathetic fight or flight state when your breathing is really low and slow and
Wow, that's
deep.
fascinating, because I'd say mine's extremely shallow, and it has been for a while. And I think
Okay.
there would be some rewiring needed to breathe
Yeah.
out of your belly, especially being overweight. You know, you don't really kind of, I think that might have had an effect, or just being stressed for a
Yeah.
while.
And I would say it's a very normal thing. A lot of people tend to breathe either into their chest or up into their collarbones, whereas actually, like, your lungs are these huge big sacs that fill up your chest cavity, that come all the way down. If you sort of place your hands on your lower ribs, that's where you've got your diaphragm sitting. That's your primary breathing muscle. That's the thing that moves up and down to help inflate and deflate the lungs. But yeah, you've got this huge expanse within your body, these two really amazing things that this whole system works together to help sort of create these physical, but also the emotional and the mental benefits. So in terms of, okay, so now you've said to me that actually you maybe find that thinking on it, your breathing is further up, higher up in the chest. I would actually encourage you, perhaps as something, this is probably more of a, when you have time to sit and just take a few moments of awareness, I would say place your hands on your lower ribs, the sort of the abdomen area, your belly. Some people describe this in yoga. It's described as belly breathing, because people find it easier to sort of use that mental concept of breathing with their belly. Mm-hmm. And just close your eyes if you want to, or you can focus on a point in front of you. And I just want you to tune in to breathing using that part of your body. So where your hands connect to the surface of your skin, just gently drawing the breath down into the deepest part of your lungs, thinking about your diaphragm, moving to draw that air in, noticing those lower ribs expanding and contracting with each breath. And it might feel a bit awkward or uncomfortable to begin with, drawing that breath in lower into the lungs if it's something you're not used to. But eventually, with practice, it will begin to become a more instinctual behavior. Or you might have a very brief pause where you think, oh, my breath is really shallow. I'm going to start to slow my breath down and draw it deeper into the body. So it's this building up these steps. It's not something that you'll do straight away, but it's just giving yourself this self-awareness, building up this connection to your physiology, to then be able to give yourself the support you need, or to say, okay, I've recognized this is how I'm feeling, I'm going to slow things down. And certainly if we go back to the sort of the science fundamentals of breathing, so when you inhale, because of the change of pressure in your chest, your heart has to increase its rhythm to pump blood. So when you inhale, your heart rate will speed up. And when you exhale, the opposite happens. Your heart rate, because of the change in your heart volume, because of the pressure in your chest cavity, the heart has to slow down to reduce the blood volume that's moving across. Yeah. So this is what's known as heart rate variability, if you've ever heard of HRV. So inhale activates the fight or flight, increases heart rate. Exhale activates the rest and relax, the rest and digest, and decreases your heart rate. So just using that very basic principle, you can change the dominance of your breathing to change your overall state.
Wow.
So if you want to energize, you're going to do more inhales versus exhales. So you might do 6 to 4. And
I've seen Tony Robbins do this on a he does these like quite big inhales.
Yeah.
And before he does a big show, I've seen people do this before they go out on stage, a lot of inhaling. And so when you want to relax yourself,
it's the other way around.
It's the other way around.
Yeah. So you might say do 4 inhale, a count of 4 on an inhale to a count of 6 on an exhale. Or if you can get really comfortable with controlling the flow of your breath, then maybe a count of 8. But doing that creates more dominance towards that
So that
down
tips the scale,
regulating.
and that's enough already, like
Yeah.
a difference of a second or two.
Yeah, it is that simple. Yeah. And you'll notice when we want to calm ourselves down, slow breath.
Sectional breathing, that's the word.
So I would say, for someone who maybe hasn't done much breath work before and wants to build up breath, body, mind connection, focusing on just placing your hands on your body and thinking about breathing, drawing the breath right down to where your hands are. When you get more practice with that, you can remove the hands, place them in your lap, and just use the physical connection, the mental connection rather than the physical, of breathing in, but focusing on drawing the breath down towards the diaphragm. And you can also then do it in individual sections if you want, just to see what it feels like. Okay, this is what it's like when I breathe in deep down to my diaphragm. And I don't know what the statistic is, but the majority of people only use a very small sort of fraction of the ability of their diaphragm. It's this huge, powerful muscle that has...
Where do you think that comes from?
Lifestyle, I think, in a lot of cases. I think the nature of our lifestyles in, when you look over sort of however many years, that the nature, a lot of us have lost touch. And because we have a lot of stress, I mean, it's not to say stress has never been there, but I think because stress is more perpetual, like you were saying about burnout, I've had burnout. I'm sure we could speak to a lot of people who've been close to burnout or had it. The stress means we're just constantly or living in this chronic state of fight or flight, the sort of the stress response, which it's like a self-perpetuating thing. If you start breathing here, it will make you feel stressed, which will then continue to breathe here in this top part of the body. And I think it's just the big thing I notice, I think, is just awareness. People we've almost become these like floating heads, and we forget that we've got the rest of this down here. And that's what I very much sort of like to work on, is rebuilding, like reattaching the head to the body to realize that, oh, actually my body's telling me something. I can notice that my breathing's very shallow. Well, what's going on? Oh, I'm feeling stressed about this thing. Okay, I'm going to actively make a choice to slow my breathing down, to calm myself down, to come back to a more sort of logical place of thought, rather than being stuck in this the sort of the limbic, the fight or flight state of things.
And it sounds like the sectional breathing is the ideal kind of introduction into breath work. Basically, if you've got 5 minutes, you said moments of awareness where you can go away and maybe have 5 minutes, lie down, put your hands on your belly, on your diaphragm, and those kind of things, and just feel how it sits with you.
You could start with the thing I always start a class with before we even go into thinking about the body, the lungs in sort of 3 separate sections, is just following the journey of your breath. So breathing in through the nose, following the air as it flows down the back of your throat, into your lungs, following the journey of the breath as it leaves the body in the other direction, and noticing the sensations, noticing the rib cage expand and contract, feeling all the way around, noticing the little hairs inside your nose as they move, noticing the warmth of the air, the coolness of the air, the pace. Just it purely an observational exercise. It's like a very mindful, meditative thing to do, but just following your breath, not trying to manipulate it or change it or judge it, just following the air in, feeling the body expand and contract with the breath, noticing where the breath is. Is it deep down? Is it somewhere in the middle? Is it high? Is it fast? Is it slow? And just staying with that, noticing if there's areas of tightness or openness, and just doing that as a little exercise, when you have a pause in your day, just starting with that as a very basic, before you then go into, okay, now I'm going to build in. Right now I'm going to breathe into using the diaphragm. breathing into the abdomen. Now I'm going to breathe into the chest and sort of fully, a lot of people, when they breathe in, they'll go, whereas actually you want to be focusing on expanding outwards. But yeah, breathing into the chest and then moving up to the collarbones and then bringing it all into one deep breath. So you're using the full extent of your lungs. So physiological sigh for the short and quick and sharp. Following the journey of your breath, just exploring where it goes before you then move into some sexual breathing to help build that awareness, sort of reconnecting the mind and the body. So those are
when would you suggest someone do this in their day? If you picture an ordinary day, when would you do that, monitoring your breath, or kind of just following the breath, that sensation and sectional breathing? When's the ideal time to do that?
Well, the ideal time is when it best suits you, because I can say what my day looks like and when I find those natural pauses. But I would say when you have a natural pause, or in the transitional moments, is where you can create these air pockets, which I like to call them, where you can. So let's say I had a client who, she works from home, she has to do the school run. So for her, because of the busyness of her morning, actually doing it when she first wakes up, she's straight into school go mode. Yeah. So for her, the first moment she does her breathing exercises is before she opens her laptop to start working. And then the next opportunity is when she takes a pause to close for lunch. She'll then sit and do some breathing. And then again at the end of the day, before she goes from work mode to parent mode, just using that moment there. So it's very much, I think, down to the individual and when it suits you. For someone who maybe gets up really early, maybe doesn't have the distractions of children in the morning, I would say, so what I might do, because I don't have kids, is I would go and I wake up. I'm very good at getting up as soon as my alarm goes off, which my boyfriend just doesn't understand at all. I'll make a cup of tea and then I can just sit in bed whilst my tea is cooling down to drinking temperature, and I can just follow the journey of my breath, just to give my mind a few moments to wake up.
I love how it's tactical and related to the tea cooling down to the right temperature. That's perfect. That's an air pocket.
This is, yeah, exactly. It's about, this is very much what I want people to take from this, is that it's about what works for you. You have to identify these moments in your day. If you look at like habit stacking and things like that, when are you going to consistently be able to practice this thing? Because it is a practice.
It's almost like a kind of an air pocket audit, basically looking, maybe not even doing it in the day, but just taking a specific day or tomorrow or today, and just realize when you have these air pockets, when are the kids down for a nap, when have you walked the dog, and
exactly,
what do I do now?
You can do it whilst walking the dog. If you leave your phone at home, don't wear headphones, and just as you're walking, just notice your breathing. Am I breathing through my nose? Am I breathing through my mouth? Is my breathing fast? Is it slow? Oh, okay, it's a bit fast. I'm going to start to slow my breath down and just gradually bring in that breath control.
And I like what you said with the no judgment.
Yeah. That's with all of these things, it's very easy to attach feelings to think, oh, my breathing should be faster, or it should be slower. Yeah, exactly. Or, I mean, I still get it, and I have to remind myself. So I've had a cold recently, which makes breathing through my nose quite difficult. And it's always encouraged to breathe through your nose because it is there to be breathed through for so many reasons.
In and out,
yeah. In and out through your nose, yeah. For as much as possible, unless you're doing an intentional breathwork technique where breathing through your mouth, because of the way it funnels the air, can change, sort of create a greater sort of relaxing effect. But I've not been able to breathe through my nose, and I've done some what's called buteyko breathing, which is where you're You're breathing in very slowly, very gently, and it's building up carbon dioxide tolerance. And I found that quite hard recently. And so my sort of judgmental side, my inner critic, will say to me, "You're a breathwork teacher. You should be a pro at doing this. Why aren't you doing it?" And it's like, I've been poorly recently, and perhaps I haven't been practicing this kind of breathing very often. And it does take a lot of practice to build up CO2 tolerance. So it's just, it's difficult to pause the inner critic and say, we're just here to practice. We're just being an observer. Yeah. In fact, the thing I always think is you are doing this thing. You're here doing it now, and that's what matters.
You're on the scoreboard.
Yeah, exactly. You've taken a moment out of your day, even if it's the first time you've done it this week and it's a Friday, it doesn't matter. You're still here showing yourself that you can do it. And that's again, when we were talking about being in the present moment, that's the only place you need to be. There's so much. I'm already like, when can I tell you the next technique?
No, I love it. You also mentioned box breathing. Mm-hmm. And I think that was even in relation to the second example, kind of winding down, bedtime, shutting the mind off, or not shutting it off, but just winding down, calming my thoughts.
Yeah. So box breathing, yes. So we talked about that moment reset. We looked at physiological, sigh,
sectional breathing.
Sectional breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. With the wanting to switch yourself off, calm things down before bed, or if you've had a particularly activating experience, maybe you've had a conflict or you just need to step away, or you've had a very, like I talked about the example of my friend with her very intense meetings, and you just want to be able to switch your mind off. This is box breath is one that I absolutely love because it is, you can use it for so many things, and the military use it. It's called tactical breathing because it's so effective. And this is where you are breathing in a box shape. So breathing in generally for a count of 4, holding at the top of your breath for a count of 4, breathing out for a count of 4, and then holding at the bottom for a count of 4. And people will be used to doing a breath hold, a breath retention at the top, but a lot of people certainly aren't knowingly aware of holding their breath at the bottom. So it can take a bit of practice to just get used to that and not allowing yourself to think, I need to take a breath in. But the idea is that the box shouldn't be too big that you're having to hold the breath for too long. So if I demo, so I'm going to breathe in, pause, breathe out, and then pause. Breathe in, pause, breathe out, and then pause. I'm not counting the full 4 because I can't talk and breathe and count at the same time, but that's what you're looking to do. So it's in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, out for a count of 4, and then hold for a count of 4. And when you're taking that inhale, you're not trying to take your deepest, fullest breath, like to hold. It should just be something that kind of falls into almost your natural rhythm of breathing. So it's just a nice long inhale, a gentle hold at the top, just maybe using a very light bit of pressure from your throat to do that hold, and then exhale. Almost, you're not completely empty, but almost empty, and then just pausing at the bottom before you then restart that cycle. And I would do that for 3 to 5 minutes. But even if you only have 1 minute, even if you can only do 4 cycles of that pattern, it's still going to have a benefit. But it's just very good for balancing, creating a point of focus, because your brain is having to tune into those 4 sides of the box. There isn't enough, certainly I find, my brain doesn't have as many opportunities to disappear off down a thought path, because it's like, okay, now we're back to this part. And just the noticing the sensations on things like the hold at the top of the breath and the bottom of the breath and how that feels, and perhaps playing around with expanding the box, so bringing each side up to 5 or 6, and just as you get more comfortable with it. But that's one I would do before sleep is box breathing. There are other techniques like 4-7-8 where you're inhaling, holding and exhaling, and you're not having the hold at the bottom. Buteyko, that gentle breathing I was talking about, that's another one you can do. But box, I think, is just a nice, simple all-rounder.
I love it because it's just 4 on each one.
Yeah.
It's kind of simple to remember. Sounds like something you want to practice and do repetition of to get used to it and kind of rewire your brain to doing those kind of exercises and getting repetitions in. But I love that it sounds simple in terms of a concept, just 4, counting for 4.
Yeah. And it's something you can use not just before you want to go to sleep, but if you've got, let's say, before I came onto this podcast call and I'm feeling a little bit anxious because I'm going to be doing, like, talking about this kind of stuff, doing some box breathing then, just to help ground myself, to calm, to focus. Or if I work part-time now between flying and the breath work, but if I'm at home working and my mind is just all over the place and I'm incredibly distracted and I know I need to go into a period of deep work or focus, I will do some box breathing to then, right, okay, I'm in the zone, I'm ready to focus on what I'm doing.
I mean, we haven't done the coaching session for long now, but I'm already feeling quite coached. I think my compass is slowly being set.
Yes.
We spoke about the first scenario I mentioned, life throws you a curveball, we know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
If we just think about, I'm just trying to think of a specific situation. So I liked the habit building piece.
Yeah.
That sounds very, very achievable. Life throws you a curveball. We have something we can do, the physiological side, that doesn't take very long to do.
Mm-hmm.
We also spoke about this kind of air pocket audit that you can do during your day, just to realize when you have a couple of moments and then to follow those instructions. What else can you advise, having heard some of the kind of issues that I have?
Oh, so I feel like in terms of, so we've covered, you talked about those air pockets, and the big one being when you're trying to get ready for, or putting your mind in a place for sleep.
Yeah.
That's kind of creating yourself without it being sort of too much pressure, but because sometimes that, and it's creating a routine before bed, can then create its own sort of anxiety if it doesn't go to plan. But just allowing yourself a few minutes before you go to sleep, whether you want to do it lying down in bed or sitting in a chair before you get into bed. I mean, certainly I would say do it whilst you're lying down in bed, because you might find that sleep naturally comes as a part of doing the breathing, but just giving yourself 5 minutes, creating that sort of sleep window to allow yourself to have the time to lie down, to tune into your breathing, and to go into that box, to give your mind that space to just allow it to switch off. And perhaps keeping something, I don't know if this is what you do already, but if you find that you have lots of thoughts that come, having a little notebook by the bed and doing a brain dump before you go to sleep. So
essential for me. Yeah.
Just thinking, right, this is all the stuff I've got swirling around, and I'm going to pull it out of here and I'm going to put it on this page. And even something a concept I've heard people talking about is allocating worry time. So actually saying to yourself, right, tomorrow I'm going to put a 15-minute block in my calendar. I'm going to look at that stuff that I'm worrying about, and that's when I'm going to deal with it. Because then you're creating this sense of control. Again, we've got another model called, I want to say it's zones of influence or zones of control. Have you heard of that?
No.
So you have control in the middle, influence outside of that, and then accept beyond that. And if I'm feeling anxious or have lots of thoughts that I'm struggling to control, beyond because with breath work, I think it's important to have some mental tools as well. I think about this concept, these 3 circles or 2 circles. I have control in the middle. So I think, can I control this? Yes. This is what I can do. Okay, if the answer is no, can I influence this? If the answer is yes, I think about, okay, what can I do to influence this? And if the answer is no, then it falls into the accept. And that's where I just have to painfully, perhaps, allow it to just be. And it might not always stay there. It might move into influence, and then it might move into control. But I just find, giving my brain this thing to focus on of, can we control it? Can we influence it? Or do we have to accept it? Just helps me mentally process, so that when I do some breath work, I'm actually then, okay, I've allowed myself to think about it. I know where it sits within my world of control, because that's something humans, we love to have control. Most people will say, I want to be able to control this. So when we can't, that's when we really struggle. So you've already created, you've worked through the cognition and created a sense of control. Even if you told yourself, I have to accept it, that has still given you a sense of control because you've dealt with it. And then you can move into breath work to be like, okay, now I'm gonna give myself some space to calm down. I'm going to give myself something to anchor into, to just switch off that part of my brain.
I love this. It really resonates, because I think, similar to when we spoke about burnout, how I tried to tackle that with working more, I think a lot of these issues I try and tackle by thinking more. And so I'm always kind of looking at different angles, but having that mental model, is it out of your control? Can you do something about it? Would worrying help in this case? No, not at all.
Yeah.
But I love how that, together with breath work, I feel like my arsenal is increasing now when it comes to the tools or the superpowers that I can use.
Yeah, I think it's about having it's having a sort of holistic toolkit, I guess, the toolbox, whatever word you want to use, these superpowers that you can. It's not one thing in isolation. It's the combination of a few different things, and obviously breathwork is a big part that I advocate for. But having that with some mental tools to connect the two together, to bring the mind and the body, because equally, if you're just focusing on the body and you're not allowing the mind to process, then that can have problems too. So it's just having some very simple things that don't require, certainly it sounds like you have quite a busy life, lots of commitments, lots of things to share your time amongst, that maybe sitting down and grabbing a big journaling workbook just isn't something that's practical and that's something you can maintain consistently, whereas actually just using a mental concept in the moment, or maybe even creating some columns on your notebook before you go to bed of control, influence, accept, and just dropping it into there so you can look at it and be like, oh yeah, reminder, I just have to accept this thing.
I love that. I mean, just thinking of me, I would just look at the different perspectives of something, but not really triage. So what are we going to do about this? Are we going to think about this now, or are we going to park it in one of those sections or in one of those columns and get rid of it? So I love that. Thanks for that. I loved it. I think I'm hooked in terms of, I'm definitely convinced about the application this offers in my life. And thinking of 2025, I really want to be kind of kinder to myself when it comes to taking care of myself. And I was speaking to my wife a couple of days. What do we want to do? What's the theme of the year? We spoke about being kinder to ourselves, treating our bodies better, our minds better. And this ticks a lot of those boxes.
Yeah, I really
so
like
thanks
that.
for taking me along on that coaching journey. Okay. Elissa, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. I've learned a lot and want to learn even more. So that's a good thing. Just thinking of our listeners, where can they stay in touch with you? Where can they hear what you're up to, and kind of maybe even follow some of your recorded sessions? So
I'm on LinkedIn. That's where we met, and that is that's my main my main hangout online. Yeah, so Elissa Davies, you can find. I can throw in a link for people to find me. That's where I share snippets of techniques, usually with the odd sort of demo video. If you want to listen to some breathwork that I do, I have a free download of box breathing, guided box breathing on my website, which you can sign up for. And then I have a couple of things on Insight Timer as well. I used to do emotional freedom technique, which I've moved away from now, but I still have some very popular recordings on there, which I find interesting when people message me about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that I used to do that. But yes, LinkedIn, my website, and a little bit on Insight Timer. I am on Instagram as well, but that tends to be more of the lifestyle. If you want to watch, see me going climbing and motorbiking and getting up to the cold plunge. Yeah. I'm a self-confessed adrenaline junkie on that side of things. Then that stuff's over there too.
And you have a newsletter as well, right?
I do. Yeah. So I have a monthly newsletter that comes out sometime. I don't really have a sort of set date for it, but yeah, I just like to share a breathwork technique, a little bit of simple science around breathing and breath control, and then just articles and things that I found interesting recently that might be breath related, might be social or activity, like adventure based.
Sounds like a perfect nudge for someone who wants to stay in touch with breathwork, but
it's just a nice way to kind of, it's meant to be there as your sort of lunchtime reading break, something you can just dip into and take what you want, leave what you don't. Yeah.
So, Elissa, thanks so much. The final spotlight's on you. The idea would be that you answer 2 questions. The one question is, so this is called Parting Challenge.
Oh, okay.
One question is, if you could put a message up on a billboard and all the listeners drive past this billboard every day, what would your message be on that billboard regarding to breathwork?
It would be very, very simple, because I'm all about the simplicity, and it would just say, take a deep breath. Because I think so often we just forget to breathe. We hold our breath, and it would just say, take a deep breath, because that breath can have such a big and immediate impact on how you then feel beyond that. So yeah, that would be.
Just imagine everybody passes that billboard on a daily basis and they're getting a big conscious breath every day, and who knows where that takes them.
Just like, how good does it feel when you just let yourself have a big sigh? Oh, it's so relieving. Yeah, that would be my message.
Okay, and the second question, a simple weekly or a simple challenge that you'd like to leave me and the audience with, something they can maybe implement during the week.
Yeah, so I would like everyone to take, I'm going to say 3 minutes out of your day to sit and just follow the journey of your breath. Follow the breath as it comes in through your nose, down your throat, into your lungs. Notice its qualities, its pace, its where the breath is. Do that for a few minutes, and then just start to slow the breath down. You might notice that you actually do it naturally through just the nature of following the breath can be quite relaxing, but just notice your breath. Do it for a week or 2 and see where it's at, and just, begin to slow it down.
I love it, because it sounds very achievable. So I'm definitely going to do it. I'm so happy you could join us today. Thanks so much, Elissa Davies.
Thank you. Can I take a photo now? Want to go?
Oh yeah, great.